Good morning and welcome to General Finance for July 15th. Identification of media. I don't see any. Any changes or additions to the agenda? Go ahead, Nathan.
Got two items for the open. The first is coming from Public Works for a renewal for our lease, and the second is coming from Housing renewal for the housing management subsidy.
I think number 5 we're tabling now till next month, right? Number 5, Becky? With post-secondary? Yes.
Okay, so number 5 will be removed. Deferred. Can I have a mover to accept the agenda? Moved by Audrey, second by Amos. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Delegations, there's no delegations. Number 4, adoptions of the general finance minutes. There's no questions or comments. Can I have a mover? Moved by Melba. Second by Greg. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Number 6. Go ahead, Jennifer. Good morning. Yep. Hey, go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you and good morning. So for number 6, we have the ISC Comprehensive Funding Agreement amendments number 122, 123, 124, and 125. Whereas Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council has entered into a 5-year comprehensive funding agreement with Indigenous Services Canada. And whereas Contribution Funding Agreement amendments number 122, 123, 124, and 125 for fiscal year 2024-25 have been received for council approval and signatures. Therefore, be it resolved that the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council approve and sign the following comprehensive funding agreement amendments for fiscal year 2024 and 2025 between His Majesty the King and Right of Canada, as represented by the Minister of Indigenous Services and the Six Nations of the Grand River. Amendments include additional funding for the following departments, projects, or programs. Amendment number 122, Jordan's Principal Respite Care, $361,845. Amendment number 123, Maternal Child Health Midwifery, $177,460. Amendment number 124, Social Assistance Employment and Training for $47,760. And amendment number 125, Environment, Public Health, Water, Wastewater for $20,000.
Is there a mover and seconder? Then questions. Moved by Melba. Second by Carrie. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Waive second reading. Dale. Second by Carrie. All in favor? Be opposed? See none, carried. Number 7.
So number 7 is a change in signing authority on the Ontario Works bank account. So it reads, whereas the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council is required to update the signing authorities on all business accounts with the Royal Bank of Canada, and whereas staff changes have occurred within the Department of Ontario Works, Therefore, be it resolved that the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council approves to remove signing authority for Sandy Porter and add signing authority for Rebecca Logan, Senior Manager of Ontario Works, effective immediately on Ontario Works business account only.
Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Dale, second by Audrey. Any comments? See none, all in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Waive second reading, moved by Dale, second by Audrey. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Number 8,
So number 8's recommendation from the Built Environment Committee. And it reads, it was consensus of the Built Environment and Climate Adaptation Committee that whereas Indigenous Services Canada provides annual funding for Six Nations assets and education based on a formula which uses nominal roll and adjusts our population by approximately 60%. Whereas Public Works, Housing, Administration, Parks and Recreation, Computer Services, and Fire Departments have all had the opportunity to put their priorities forward. Whereas $96,367,000 allocated to education is provided to the federal schools and school maintenance to address the priorities of the school principals and equipment replacement. Therefore, be it resolved that the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council approves to allocate the $1,272,585 of 2024-25 First Nations Infrastructure Investment Plan core-based funding as follows. Administration, $105,000. Public Works, $433,959.50. Fire, $180,000. Parks and Recreation, $330,000. Education, $96,367. Administration fee of $127,258.50 for the total allocated of $1,272,585.
is the mover and a seconder? Then we'll have questions. Go ahead, Dale. Yep, moved by Dale. Is there a seconder? Second by Elena. Comment, Dale?
On the fourth one there, you just got 96,000, and you got 367,000. You have to pick one, which thousand is gonna be where? It's usually $96,367. So you got whereas 96,000, and then you got 300.
Oh, I see. In the words it says,
Yeah, you know, in the word it says, you just.
oh, I see. Yes, so it's $96,367. Thank you.
Take the second thousand out.
Any other questions, comments? If not, with the changes? All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Number 9? Okay. Waive second reading, moved by Dale, second by Elena. All in favor? By opposed? See none, carried. Number 9.
And number 9 is a presentation of the funding agreements that have been agreed to thus far, that have been outside of the contribution funding agreements and amendments that are brought to council for full council signatures. So I've provided 2 pages. The first page are additional funding agreements that have been entered into since the last presentation on June 17th. So you can see that's been a total of $6,285,285. That does include the full amount of $4,500,000 that is for the Brantford Casino funds. And the purpose of funds are listed in the handout. On the second page, it's a comprehensive listing of all funding agreements, including those that are brought to council and have been presented prior for Six Nations of the Grand River Department uses and elected council use. And that totaled, give me 1 second, just roll on my page here. That has totaled $66,247,952 thus far.
Anything else, Jennifer? No?
No.
Question? Go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, so these are all the ones where Nathan and the chief have signed, or where Nathan has signed and they've gone back, so now you're just looking for the resolution from council.
Yes.
So is there wording that you have for it? I know, and when you first talked about you were gonna sign them all on, and you would be coming here once a month for that post approval, so that's why I'm saying, what's the wording of the resolution you're looking for is essentially, council still needs to authorize them and accept them, even though you guys have dealt with them, and they were gonna come here once a month where council would do that post approval of accepting that money.
If it's agreeable to council, I can, for the next presentation in August, we can bring a fulsome report and have that post approval done at that time with the proper wording.
So for right now, for the physical for since June 17th, 2024. But, how do you want this written? Post approval? To,
We can figure out the wording if we want, if it's gonna be post approval, we'll figure it out later, just get them open section, and we'll put the right wording in.
I think they want it to be moved, not as information. Go ahead, Dale.
I'll move then that council authorize as post approval for all the agreements that were previously signed by the CEO and slash chief as required and were dealt with to continue business. So I'll move on that.
Moved by Dale, seconder. Second by Audrey. Question, Audrey? Jennifer?
Not typically, to be honest. This is the motion that went back and forth about the pre-approval and the post-approval. And this was determined to be the most expeditious way, I suppose, to ensure that we can keep moving forward and to stop the funders from constantly following up with us, because that is what happens.
All in favor? Be opposed? See none, carried. Go ahead, Nathan.
Okay, this issue, apologies, it did come last minute, but it was urgent. The first one is in your Dropbox, but it's dealing with Six Nations Community Support Services. As you know, they support elders in the community with daily programming, client requests, and maintenance. We do have a truck that does the day-to-day activities, and that truck is requires a lease. That's leased to be renewed. So the recommendation reads, finances are secured through annual budgets for these payments, whereas the monthly maximum payment is $1,000 have been identified. Therefore, be it resolved that approval is granted to secure a lease agreement for the Six Nations Community Support Services with Strickland Brantford for a 2024 single cab maintenance truck with monthly payments not exceeding $1,000 to be charged to 44-45015-4275.
Is there a mover? Seconder, then questions. Moved by Elena, second by Melba. Questions? Audrey?
Not to exceed 1,000.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Waive second reading.
I'll move on second reading.
Moved by Dale, seconder. Elena, all in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried.
Second issue is, we have to have the work, budget and work plan to ISK by July 30th, so that's, the reason for the rush. But this is Indigenous Service Canada Ontario region has renewed the housing management subsidy for 2024-2025. All First Nations in Ontario are eligible to apply for this subsidy. The subsidy does provide much needed capacity for housing professionals to study, design, build, and maintain homes for vulnerable First Nations in Canada. And it also supports the existing housing personnel. So the motion reads, it is recommended that housing applications to the ISK 2024-2025 Housing Management Subsidy Funding Program in the amount of $65,000. Whereas ISK has renewed the Housing Management Subsidy Funding Program for 2024-2025. Six Nations Housing has completed the work plan and budget seat in accordance with the program guidelines. Therefore, be it resolved that that should say Six Nations Council supports the Housing Department's request to submit an application to the ISK 2024-25 Housing Management Subsidy Funding Program. I do want to note that this was ready for the Built Environment and Climate Adaptation Committee. However, we had a mix-up in communication. Derek thought the meeting was in the afternoon and we had the meeting in the morning.
Is there a mover, a seconder, then questions? Moved by Audrey, second by Dale. Question, Elena?
I'm just wondering what the technical maintenance position entails. The technical maintenance position, what does that entail?
That is the, they deal mostly with much of the APACs within the units.
Any other questions? Not all in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Waive second reading. Moved by Dale, second by Audrey. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. That's it for our open. Thank you for joining us today, everyone, and have a great day.